Ecuador's health minister resigns after less than 3 weeks in the job. In Brazil, Rio's beaches are closed in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. And Palestine begins administering its first COVID-19 vaccines received under the COVAX initiative. Hello and welcome to teleSUR English. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the south. Ecuador's health minister Rodolfo Falfán resigned this Friday as prosecutors investigate allegations of favoritism in the rollout of coronavirus vaccines. Falfán resigned after police raided the health ministry and a hospital in the capital Quito as part of its investigation. He was named health minister on March 1st, replacing Juan Carlos Ceballos, who resigned in late February while under investigation after participating in an inoculation effort at a nursing home where his mother lives. Accusation of nepotism in the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines have caused political turmoil in several South American countries, including Ecuador, Peru, and Argentina. In Brazil, Rio's iconic beaches have been closed to the public to curb the spread of COVID-19. This is the first time Rio's beaches were closed again since they reopened in July 2020. But Brazilian authorities are looking to curb a recent spike in number of hospitalizations, with the health system already working at full capacity. Military police and the municipal guard patrol the beaches, asking those who ignore the new restrictions to leave. According to the Ministry of Health, Brazil recorded 2,724 deaths in the last 24 hours, reaching over 290,000 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic.
It's the time to reduce the circulation of people in the streets. It's not the time to do sports on the beach. It's not the time to divide in the ocean. Now, it's the time to stay home. We have a new variant of the virus, the P1 variant, that's circulating in the city intensively, a new variant that can be worse than the one before.
Political parties in Venezuela are preparing for the upcoming regional electoral process. At the same time, institutions continue with their renovation processes or the confirmation of new authorities. We have more details with our correspondent Leonel Retamal.
Political leaders from 20 opposition parties in Venezuela recently signed an agreement to stand united in the upcoming elections for regional governors and mayors that will take place in Venezuela this year, following the path of those who participated in the parliamentary elections of December 2020. They seek to isolate extremist opposition groups that promote violence or a total boycott of the vote.
We do not support insurrectional or unconstitutional methods, or foreign invasions, or other countries harming our sovereignty, in detriment of our people, who have only prevented us from successfully taking power, prolonging the suffering of the most vulnerable and dispossessed.
The international community is called to pay attention to these processes, and not to those who continue to demand sanctions against the country.
The Venezuelan people are peaceful. We believe in our constitution and we want to solve things through the constitutional path. These actions are by a minority that does not represent us. We are more than 30 million people. The international community does not have to sit down and talk with just 5 parties. We are more than that. We are more than 30 opposition parties. They have to listen to all of us, the population in general. We are in crisis and these sanctions have aggravated the situation.
This is happening alongside the work of several parliamentary commissions, such as that in charge of carrying out the process to renew the National Electoral Council. 75 nominations for rector of the Electoral Council have been accepted, and the process is still open to renew this state power.
For both this committee and this National Assembly, the only objective is that we can live in peace, that we take a step to distance ourselves from those who have made a living from violence, and think the solution is not democratic. For this committee and this Assembly, democracy is the only path in an electoral center.
All this is part of a process of dialogue and normalization between the public authorities of the Venezuelan state after the installation of the new National Assembly on January 5th. Commissions investigating the management of the former legislative administration are joining efforts of the Dialogue Committee, which seeks meeting points between the different sectors of society. This analyst explains it the following way.
A big debate is happening right now in Venezuela for the legitimization not only of the National Electoral Council as the regulatory body, but also the different branches of the state to move forward as a single voice, without denying the different voices within Venezuelan society, but with a need to see ourselves, to recognize ourselves as a single country.
Meetings with business representatives, churches, universities, political parties, and different social and economic sectors in the country have already taken place as part of this process.
36,000 doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine arrived in Paraguay on Friday through the World Health Organization's COVAX platform. A COVID-19 upsurge has pushed the South American country's health system to the verge of collapse. According to health authorities, the doses will be first administered to health workers. The batch is in addition to 20,000 doses of the Chinese Sinovac vaccine donated by Chile and 4,000 Sputnik 5 doses purchased from Russia, which will allow the vaccination of 90% of medical personnel involved in the fight against the pandemic. Argentina's Supreme Court of Justice has rejected an appeal filed by Google and ruled in favor of Vice President Cristina Fernández regarding her defamation lawsuit against the internet giant. The country's top court rejected the appeal filed in October 2020, in which Google requested its intervention to review previous ruling that Google must provide access to its multinational server to collect evidence in the case filed by the Vice President. The case surrounds a search result from the engine in which her title appeared as the thief of the Argentine nation instead of Vice President. Following the latest ruling, Google must hand over all the data associated with Cristina Kirchner's name from May 17, 2020. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador expressed his gratitude to his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden on Friday for sending 2.7 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to the country. López Obrador added that with the shipment of vaccines from the United States, plus those that have arrived from Russia, China, and the Pfizer lab, his government is making progress in the national vaccination plan. The White House said it planned to ship millions of doses of AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine to Mexico and Canada. To date, Mexico has received over 7 million vaccine doses of different brands, of which it has administered over 4.7 million. More stories coming up. Don't go away. Welcome back. The Palestinian Health Ministry has begun administering its first coronavirus vaccine received through the global COVAX initiative. The World Health Organization and its partners who run the COVAX program delivered 61,400 vaccines to the Palestinian authorities on Wednesday, with 21,300 of them were shipped to the blockade Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip. The other 40,000 shots are a boost to the West Bank, where the Palestinian authorities has been struggling to purchase vaccines. The vaccines delivered under COVAX were Pfizer and AstraZeneca, rolled out in the Palestinian territories for the first time.
Not enough vaccines at the moment in Gaza, so that's why we're only prioritizing the globally agreed groups, such as the healthcare workers, particularly the frontline healthcare workers, the elderly, and the people with the underlying health conditions. So far, we have very few vaccines available in Gaza, and therefore we cannot yet start with mass vaccination campaign for the overall population. We only focus on the priority groups.
Thousands of Israelis have rallied in Jerusalem to demonstrate against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ahead of next Tuesday's general election. The Prime Minister Netanyahu is being accused of corruption and a failure to manage the coronavirus pandemic. The elections, therefore, in less than 2 years, are widely seen as a referendum on Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving prime minister. The polls show Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party in the lead, projecting that it will win around 30 seats in the 120-member parliament. The centrist Yesh Atid party, the largest in the anti-Netanyahu bloc, is projected to win around 20 seats. Around 100 Lebanese mothers have marched against the country's ruling class in Beirut on the eve of Mother's Day. The mothers who marched along with their children from an area once on Beirut dividing line during the 1975-1990 civil war to the port, which saw a catastrophic explosion last year, where more than 200 people died and thousands more were injured in the incident, which was blamed on official negligence. Lebanon is battling its worst economic crisis in decades. The national currency has lost almost 90% of its value against the dollar on the black market, and consumer prices have soared. As a result, some 55% of Lebanese now live below the poverty line.
I am here to represent mothers' voices. Every Lebanese mother from 1975 until today, every persevering and patient mother, every immigrant mother or whose children were forced to immigrate, every mother of a martyr or injured, every mother who is a medic, a nurse, a doctor or a teacher in this current period of death.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has tested positive for the coronavirus 2 days after he received his first vaccine dose. According to his doctor, the Prime Minister has quarantined himself at his private home on a hilltop in the Islamabad suburbs. The diagnosis comes as the country grapples with a deadly third wave of the virus that has already killed nearly 13,800 people from more than 620,000 infections, although limited testing suggests real figures are much likely higher. France has imposed its third coronavirus lockdown in an attempt to contain a surge of newly confirmed COVID-19 cases. French Prime Minister Jean Castex on Thursday announced that the Paris region, the northern region, and several other departments in the south of France are going into lockdown for 4 weeks, starting this weekend. The new measures include closing non-essential shops, limiting travel to within 10 kilometers of homes, and encouraging remote working. Long-distance travel between regions under lockdown will be banned. Schools are to remain open and walks and exercise will be allowed.
It's hard to get used to it, being confined. We want freedom. We want to go out. We are deprived of all that. The little pleasures of everyday life are no longer available.
Poland has introduced a stricter lockdown throughout the country to stop the spread of COVID-19. The new restrictions will be in place until April 9th and include the closure of schools, hotels, cinemas, theaters, swimming pools, and sports facilities. Only essential shops may be open in the shopping malls, which is of huge concern to retailers. In the meantime, Polish teachers are currently being vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine.
This is problematic for us, above all, because these decisions are made overnight and we feel that they are not consulted with us. Of course, we are observing the situation in the country ourselves, so we know that it is serious and it is indeed necessary to introduce changes that will help stop the pandemic. However, we are afraid of the consequences of another lockdown.
German police have clashed with protesters at a mass demonstration against coronavirus restrictions in the city of Kassel. Police used batons and fired water cannon at people to try to break through barriers and throwing bottles. The protest attracted between 15 and 20,000 demonstrators from all the political spectrum. Some of them say that they don't believe the pandemic is real, while others claim the curve imposed to stop the spread of the virus infringe on their civil rights. Chancellor Angela Merkel and the leaders of Germany's 16 federal states are meeting on Monday to discuss the next steps in the pandemic fight, with Merkel warning that there could be not further easing of restrictions. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, protesters also scuffled with police in central London during a demonstration against lockdown measures. Thousands of people took part in the demonstration despite warnings from authorities not to congregate and risk spreading the coronavirus. England has been under strict lockdown since January, with all non-essential businesses closed and people asked to stay home. We're taking one last break, but stay with us. Thousands of women have taken to the streets in Istanbul to protest against Turkey's decision to withdraw from a landmark European treaty protecting women from violence. The government sparked domestic and international outrage after announcing the decision on Saturday, the latest victory for conservatives in Erdogan's nationalist party and their allies, who argued the treaty damaged for family unity. The 2011 Istanbul Convention, signed by 45 countries and the European Union, requires governments to adopt legislation prosecuting domestic violence and similar abuse, as well as martial rape and female genitalia mutilation. Conservatives had claimed that the treaty damages family unity, encourages divorce, and that its reference to equality were being used by the LGBT community to gain broader acceptance in society.
As women, we now think that the withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention is a direct attack on women's rights and a direct attack on the rights of modern young women in particular. This, of course, makes us feel insecure and like our rights are appropriated by the government.
We were struggling every day so that the Istanbul Convention would be implemented and women would live. We now hear that the Istanbul Convention has been completely repealed. We are very angry today. We can no longer bear even one death of a woman. We do not have any tolerance left for this.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has heavily condemned Turkey's withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention. According to women's rights groups, last year 300 women were murdered in Turkey, and the rate is speeding up, with 77 killed already this year. 2 people have been killed and 5 were injured after an explosion ripped through a shipping warehouse in Syria. The cause of the explosion in the town of Al-Babab, near the border with Turkey, is still unknown. The province, which includes Aleppo, is controlled by Turkey-backed opposition fighters who took hold of the region in previous military offenses in 2016 and 2018. March 2021 marked 10 years since the start of the Syrian civil war that has killed more than 500,000 people and forced half of the population to flee their homes. Thousands of Tanzanians have gathered in the capital Dar es Salaam to pay their last respects to the late President John Magufuli. Government officials, church leaders, and security forces gathered for the funeral service at the Uhuru Stadium. The Tanzanian leader died last week of a heart attack at the age of 61. The country's former Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan has taken over as the new head of state.
Frankly speaking, he was a really good person to us. We shall miss and remember him a lot for all the good things he did to us, especially me. I shall remember him a lot, especially women. He really advocated for us when it comes to health, but he also decided to offer free education at all levels. I really ask and hope the new president, Samia Suluhu, will keep up all the good things Magufuli used to do during his time.
Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin has praised the United States' partnership with India on his first visit to New Delhi. The U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to strengthen strategic and bilateral cooperation ties in the Indo-Pacific region. The talks in New Delhi have been expected to be dominated by shared alarm about China. India is a key U.S. ally in the region, and the trip comes after the first talks between Secretary of State Antony Blinken and top Chinese officials in Alaska. This meeting is the first to strengthen the military alliance between the two countries.
We discussed opportunities to elevate the U.S.-India major defense partnership, which is a priority of the Biden-Harris administration, and we'll do that through regional security cooperation and military-to-military interactions and defense trade.
Thai police have used water cannons and tear gas to disperse anti-government protesters in Bangkok. Demonstrators demanded new elections, amendments of the constitution, and called for an end to the intimidation of government critics. The protests against the government of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha started early 2020 and were later begun, including demands for a reform of the Thai monarchy. Tokyo Olympics and Paralympic Games have announced that overseas spectators will not be permitted to attend these summer's rearranged games due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The Olympic Games were originally scheduled to take place last year are due to begin on July 23rd, and tickets purchased overseas through official channels will be refunded.
Our first priority was, is, and remains the safety of all participants of the Olympic Games and, of course, the Japanese people. You very, very much for setting priorities like safety also means that then you have to respect these priorities. And that means that you will have, and we will have, to take difficult decisions. Sir, you have the floor. That we have to take decisions which may, need sacrifice from everybody, and there where we have to ask for the understanding there also of everybody for these difficult decisions, respecting this priority of the safety of the Olympic Games.
And Japan's meteorological agency issued a tsunami advisory on Saturday after a strong 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck off the northeastern coast. There were no immediate reports of damage or injuries, but buildings were seen shaking as far as Tokyo. The quake was centered off the coast of Miyagi Prefecture in the country's northeast, which was heavily damaged during the huge earthquake and tsunami of 2011. A long-dormant volcano in southwestern Iceland have erupted. Iceland's Civil Protection Agency says Saturday that has lowered the threat level as lava flow from the Fragwell's mountain volcano seems to be lessening. The Department of Emergency Management said it was not anticipated evacuations because the volcano is in a remote valley 2.5 kilometers from the nearest road. The Fargadas mountain volcano had been dormant for 6,000 years, but there have been signs of a possible eruption recently, with earthquakes occurring daily for the past 3 weeks.
We are excited because it's not so heavy or grave. It's not any danger or nothing like that. So I think people are excited and also they are not afraid of it.
We've just been monitoring the area. First, people were not allowed to walk to the possible volcano area, but now people are allowed to walk. So basically, we're just monitoring, making sure that people park safely.
And we come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. And don't forget to join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.